Welcome back. All right, so I have to apologize to Anaheim Ducks fans. Because I know that my wife relayed to me that people on the Discord said he doesn't have to do a Ducks video. Don't. And that was over a week ago. So I was like, I need to do a Ducks video. I apologize. The other apology is because when the team went to 9-6 after that win in Nashville, I said to Yvonne, wouldn't it be fun if when we go down to Anaheim, the Ducks are good? Wouldn't it be fun if that game meant something? And since then, the team has absolutely tanked. So I can only assume that the hockey gods heard me and went, we're not going to allow that. So when we look at this team, an important thing to keep in mind is Jamie Drysdale, not in the lineup. Trevor Zegras, not in the lineup. Isaac Lundestrom, not in the lineup. Those are three key pieces of that team. Those are two top nine forwards. Arguably, Lundestrom can play top 6 minutes. Jamie Drysdale expected to be a top 4 defenseman. And for an Anaheim Ducks team that, didn't have a great record last year, it's tough to keep your head afloat, right? So they're 10-19 currently. They were 7-19-3 at this point last year. It's not good. It's not a good picture. So what I wanted to do with this was something a little different than what I've done with other videos on teams having a hard time of it. I wanted to separate the losses out. So that it doesn't sound quite as repetitive. I wanted to go through good losses, bad losses, and ugly losses. And we'll talk about their victory as well. And I'm saving the victory for last because I want to save the positive part for last, although that positivity, that's exactly 2 weeks ago tonight. So anyways, the good losses since that one. On November 17th, they lost 2-1 against the Florida Panthers. The shots were tied in that one, 35 apiece. So that's a loss. It's fine. Florida's a good team. Then St. Louis on November the 19th, they lost 3-1. The shots were 32-31 for the Blues in that. So again, the shots are close. It's a close game. St. Louis, a team that's in the mix for the playoffs. They at times have been above the playoff line as well. Then November 28th against Vancouver, they lose that game 3-1. However, the shots were 31-27 Anaheim. The Ducks played well. So for Anaheim, that was a decent game. For Vancouver, maybe a disappointing overall effort from Vancouver, however you want to look at it, but it's not a horrible loss for Anaheim. And then on December 5th, they lost 3-2 against Colorado. Well, they lose that game. I thought the positive part was they trailed 3-0 in the third period, and they almost came back to tie it. And if they had, who knows? But they didn't. So for the Anaheim Ducks, those are your good losses. Then we get into the bad losses. We'll start with November 22nd. They lost 4-3 against the Montreal Canadiens. I would point out this was at home, but really when you've lost 13 out of 14, you're not winning anywhere, so it doesn't really matter. But that game was tied in the third. Anaheim needs points. They got to turn this losing streak around, and they found a way to lose that game. November 24th, they lost 5-2 against LA. Now, LA is a really good team. However, they trailed 4-0 in the second period. So that game just they didn't have it going, and again, you need that win. And even though LA is a very good team with an excellent record, they really needed the points there, and they weren't in the game. Then November 30th against Washington, they lost that game 5-4. Well, why would that be an ugly game, right? Well, the reality is Washington wins at 5-4, and they had 2 power play goals. Washington's power play has been terrible. The interesting part is the penalty kill for the Ducks has not been terrible throughout, but yeah, you don't want to allow 2 power play goals against the Caps. And again, a 5-4 loss against, it's almost in the ugly category, but there's some games in the ugly category we'll get to. And then you've got Winnipeg. Now, Winnipeg's a very good team, and losing 4-2, that's not that bad, right? But they led 2-0 in the third period. So a 2-goal lead in the third period, and they lose the game 4-2. And as I've been saying lately, it's like you can watch in these games and see where it changes, where all of a sudden they're not going to win, and you can say, yeah, so the Ducks are done. They've just folded up their tent and they're ready to go home. And it is one of those things that early in the season we were seeing from San Jose. San Jose's turned that around. Anaheim is not. Anaheim, you still get that moment in the game where you go, and they're done. So December 13th was another example of that. The New York Islanders game. It was a 4-3 lead. They led 3-2 in the third. The Islanders tie it. The Ducks get a power play, and what did they do? They immediately allowed a shorthanded goal, and then they're not able to tie it to force overtime. So The Islanders, a team that's been playing very, very well. They had a chance to get 2 points, or at least a point, and they managed to come out with none, even though they had a lead in the third period. So to me, that qualifies as being in the bad category. And then we get to ugly. They lost 8-2 against Colorado on November the 15th. That is, to me, an absolutely atrocious result for the team. And I understand Colorado's a really good team, but you can't allow an 8 spot. And then there's another 8-2 loss on the board, and that's against the Edmonton Oilers on November the 26th. So 11 days apart, they lose games by 6 goals in each of them, and it's tough. Again, the Oilers, a team that have turned things around after a really rough start to the season, and just absolutely beat up the Ducks that night. So that's a combined score of 16-4. So why would the Chicago loss be here? That was on December 7th. It was only a 1-0 loss, but it's Chicago. And this was a game that, to me, was telling us whether or not Anaheim was really this bad. Chicago, not a team that's got a lot of wins under their belt, and they beat Anaheim. And not only that, they shut them out. So Mrazek gets 37 saves. Now, Mrazek's had a very good run this season. I think he's been good. But again, Anaheim needs to find those goals. They need to break through, and they didn't. And then last night, December the 15th, they lose 5-1 against the Rangers. Rangers have been excellent most of the year, so why would that be under ugly? Because they led 1-0 and then they took 6 straight penalties. You can't do that against the New York Rangers. They will not let you win if you give them 6 straight power plays, and that's where we were. So they're 1 win on the board, right? So this is the positive. They, on December 2nd, won 4-3 against Colorado. It was in a shootout. So that game got to a shootout, one of those rare games that the Anaheim Ducks have played that's gone to extra time. And that's something that we've already talked about in this video, and it's worthy of note. There's other teams out there that get points in overtime and shootouts. Look at the Islanders. They got 8 of them. If there were 8 extra points here for the Ducks, we'd be talking about how, they're in the hunt. I mean, they keep losing in overtime and shootouts, but at least they're getting the points. We do not have that conversation with the Anaheim Ducks. So when we look at, since November the 15th, who the top scorers are, and I just want to say the NHL app, I'm not a huge fan of for certain things when I'm tracking games, but the way they've made it so it's easy to customize your stats and look at how things are going, it's great right now. So Vetrano's been their leading scorer in 14 games, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. The first thing that stands out is their leading scorer is only scoring a point every other game. He's also a minus 14 over that time. That is atrocious. Henrique, 14 games, 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points. Killorn, 14 games, 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points as well, and a minus 10. So it's been ugly. It's been really ugly. Carlson, 11 games, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points, as Leo Carlson goes through his load management in his rookie year. And early on, I thought, this is kind of silly, but you know what? If you're keeping him out of some of these ugly games, probably for the best. It might be for the best to keep him out of that. McTavish, at the time of the injury, he had played 9 out of these 14 games, 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points, and a minus 12. So a minus 12 in 9 games, not great. These are not the numbers you want to see, right? Max Jones, 13 games, 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points. Leeson, 10 games, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. And maybe one of the biggest standouts on this list is Troy Terry. 14 games, 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points. Troy Terry's supposed to be this star player, if not a star, at least a guy who's around a point per game, and he hasn't been. And 1 goal in 14 games does not get it done. Mintyukov had a really strong start to the season. That's changed. 4 assists in 14 games. He's a minus 15 in 14 games. So early on, whatever he was doing, one of 2 things. Either his game has changed somewhat, or the NHL teams playing against him have figured out how to defeat this young defenseman, and it's just been ugly. Sam Carrick has 3 goals in 14 games, and when you look further down their scoring list, Ryan Strome, 14 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points, a negative 12 in the plus-minus category. Strome, there was talk about, he should be suspended for the Kyle Connor thing, and I'm not saying he shouldn't have been, but honestly, with a minus 12 in 14 games and only 1 goal, he's not helping the Ducks either by being out there lately. Fowler, 3 assists in 14 games and a minus 14. This is a team effort. This is the entire team not playing particularly well. And that's where it gets more difficult when we talk about, so the upcoming schedule. So I don't have the upcoming schedule on here because it hasn't mattered who they've played. They've managed to be sometimes good in losses, bad, or just the ugly losses. And the troubling thing is, the good losses, 2 of them are very early in this losing streak. It's been mostly bad and ugly since then. So it feels like they just keep trending in the wrong direction. Now, Gibson, 1-9 over this run, 888 save percentage. A lot of discussion about whether or not he might be available for trade. Dostal has 4 losses and an 831 save percentage. And that's the issue there, too. Is Dostal going to be that starting goaltender in the event that you do trade Gibson? Or let's just say if it's the Devils, do you trade him for Vanacek and then make Vanacek your starter, well aware that your team's not going very far, if anywhere, when it comes to playoff time? So the overall picture for the Ducks, so I have to pause the game. The game's coming back for the third period, but I got to finish this video first for all you fine people on the internet. Goals scored per game, 1.93 during this run. Goals against per game, 4.14. So those numbers are in the same range as what San Jose was doing early in the year, right? Power play, 23.1%. That's not bad, but it means 5-on-5 they're not scoring. Or they're not getting enough power plays, one or the other, right? And they take a lot of penalties. So 78.7% on the penalty kill. The fact they take as many penalties as they have, that's troubling because you got to stay out of the box. Their shots per game, they're getting 30 shots per game. They're allowing 31.4 shots per game over this. So shots-wise, they're staying right there, but they're finding ways to lose. They're and again, your plus-minus being this ugly and your power play being here tells me your 5-on-5 play's been absolutely atrocious. And when we look at the scoring, they've allowed 24 goals in the first period. They've scored 7 during this streak. They've scored 10 in the second period. They've allowed 13. And in the third period, they've scored 10. They've allowed 21. Overtime is clean. Nothing scored for or against. But that 10 to 21 in the third period, that 7 to 24 in the first period means they've scored 17 goals in the first and third and allowed 45, which, again, you're not going to win that way. So the question then becomes, are the Anaheim Ducks on course now to be 30th to 32nd in the standings this year? Where do they end up? Are they going to end up below Chicago, or can they turn it around? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you've not done so already. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.